Efectivamente tenemos muy poco tiempo, pero por suerte tenemos una gran infraestructura, hemos conseguido un gran barco para estar aquí, pensábamos que no ibais a parar, al final habéis parado, tenemos todo muy bien preparado y yo creo que va a ser muy efectivo nuestro tiempo. Tenemos 3 frentes abiertos, uno es el palo, otro es la mayor y otro es la botavara. Esto es prácticamente un detalle, lo gordo es la vela mayor. Yo creo que 12 horas están para mucho. Bueno, la noche simplemente la tendremos que ignorar, digamos, tendremos que trabajar con luces y, digamos, seguir trabajando. Y...
In one sense, we've been lucky just break it close by and be able to get on shore quite quick and repair it now here with the sorting.
So we have Nerio, the boat builder, now up the rig, preparing the mast to do the track we have ready downstairs. This is one of the biggest jobs, but I'm more concerned about the mainsail because we broke the mainsail from left to leech all the way, so it's in 2 pieces. So it's quite tricky repair to be done with material stuff, the material we have here and the place we have to do it. Also, temperature is not helping a lot because it's quite cold, so for the glue to cure is very hard. But we're gonna do all what we can, all what is in our hands to do it, and try to finish the leg. It's gonna be hard.
La verdad es que va bastante bien, es como siempre un poco más lento de lo que nos gustaría, pero bueno, el mástil lo hemos pegado ya, el carro, y estamos terminando con la mayor. Por lo cual, bueno, esperamos salir en 1 hora y media de aquí hacia el punto de suspensión, lo cual nos daría para llegar en exactamente las 12 horas que hemos calculado perder. Y bueno, luego no es tan sencillo porque bueno, pues la reparación de la mayor tiene que secar mejor y bueno, pues empezaremos a navegar rumbo a Brasil, no a tope de prestaciones, pero bueno, pues avanzando lo máximo posible y perdiendo el menor tiempo posible.
Mapfre makes the difficult decision to suspend racing after their mainsail rips in 2. The crew are all safe and the boat headed into sheltered waters.
Well, what happened I think is a consequence of you know, the problems we've been having from day 2 or day 3, I don't remember anymore, where a part of the mast track came undone and glued from the mast. From there I think we fought very, very hard all the Southern Ocean with, you know, with ratchet straps down to the mast and sailing with the mainsail, you know, not in optimal conditions with some buttons with no cars and you know, and not working properly. So today, once we were just passing the Cape Horn, you know, we sheeted on a bit harder because it was not downwind anymore, and just a third of the mainsail just ripped from side to side, and now we have no more choice than, you know, drop the main as we have.
With heavy hearts after the loss of John Fisher on Monday, the teams rounded Cape Horn, leaving the Southern Ocean. But Xavi Fernandez and his crew, assisted by the boat shore team waiting for them in Ushuaia, have been held up with the repair of their mainsail, and now have a fleet ahead of them that are making quick progress towards their next challenge. An upwind push in big seas before the high pressure and light winds near the finish in Brazil. Mapfre's repair time has put the overall race leader into last place on a double points leg. With ground to make up, the team are now heading back to sea to rejoin the racing. Their Cape Horn rounding set to be 18 hours behind race leaders Brunel.
So let's take a look at the tracker and see where the boats are at the moment. Sun Hunkai Scallywag are still making their way north and east towards the safety of land, but the rest of the fleet that are still racing in Leg 7 have made their way round Cape Horn, with Bauer Becking taking on that bonus point and giving himself a chance to move up the leaderboard. Behind in second place, Vestas 11th Hour Racing had a little bit of a slip in their track and a dip in speed that has put Dongfeng Race Team into second place, as overall race leaders Mapfre were forced to come into the shelter of land and really burn hours repairing not only their mainsail but also their mast track. I caught up with Antonio Quevas-Mons on board to find out how the repairs were going and what it means.
Yeah, it's been more than 24 hours. It's been a crazy last 4 or 5 days for us. So basically all started a few days ago when we ripped out the track from the mast. Same kind of thing as happened with Axonovel. But we managed to keep sailing, removing the toils of the buttons and playing with some ratchet straps around the mast when we want to go for one reef and second reef. But unluckily, just like 24 hours ago, when we were about to run the Cape Horn, the mainsail says stop, and we we break into pieces the mainsail. We were lucky because we have our short team already standing by there on the horn. So we stopped for 12 hours, and with the stuff we have on the boat and the stuff they have on the boat that they bring, we have been trying to repair the mainsail, which has been the major problem.
Well, the big question that everyone's going to ask is, what was it that caused the mainsail to fail?
I think it's all started because of this track thing, as we have to sail with no toggles on two of the buttons of the mainsail. So let's say that the laugh was free, not attached to the mast. The load was going to another cars or another parts of the mainsail. So it was too much load in one of the areas, and we've been sailing like that for 4 or 5 days, more or less, if I'm not wrong. And finally it broke. In the top part, one big stripe, and we broke the mainsail in 2 pieces.
Did you manage to get any rest, or was it just, I mean, wide-eyed and full work?
Well, I think the sorting has done a great job, and also all the crew. We haven't slept at all in the last 24 hours. It's been really crazy. So basically, us as a team, we always like to have a short team standing by in Cape Horn. We did that in Telefonica. We did that last edition that they ended up helping Dongfeng, and we did this also this time. And they were ready to fix the mast. Was our biggest problem, and we never thought that the mainsail will break. But unluckily that happened. So they didn't have so much stuff with them to fix the main, and we have to manage with the little amount of glue that we have to as better as we can. So basically right now we are sailing just with the front sail. The mainsail is still down below, trying to dry as much as it can before we hoist it. And also we have the piece of track that we broke, strap it down with glue onto the mast, and until tomorrow, until tonight, at sunset we cannot hoist any sail in the mainsail. I mean.
Well, you're behind the fleet now. Looking forward, does the weather allow you a chance to catch up, or is there going to be more challenges?
I think the high pressure we're gonna sail into is gonna be worse for us. So I think the routine says that the guys in the front will be there in 4 days, and we might be there in 6-7 days. But you know, with the high pressure, it always changes. So it can happen that the thing goes upside down, and we can catch up.
I mean, it's been a difficult Southern Ocean leg for everybody, of course, with that incident with Sun Hung Kai Scallywag leaving an indelible mark on everybody's feelings. A hard Cape Horn rounding for you as well. I hate to bring up the overall scoreboard. Have you discussed the impact of this with the crew at all?
Yeah, well, as you say, the worst of this leg has been the thing with the Scallywag. It's so sad. We are all in the crew are so deeply sad, and sorry about the family of John. But well, if you think about that, it for sure doesn't matter the overall leader score, and doesn't matter even the race, no? Because this is on top of everything. But yeah, regarding the race, it's gonna be hard for us. If Dongfeng wins this leg, for sure it's not gonna be good for us as a team. And we'll see.
Now, I've got Conrad Coleman here joining me because, Conrad, we saw some little snippets there in that video of some of the work that was needing to be done to repair the mainsail and the mast track, but you've got some experience in this field. Can you just talk us through the technicalities of it? What was really going on?
Well, yeah, sadly I got more than my fair share of sort of repairs and recuts and jury rigs, etc. in my last race around the world. But first of all, hats off to Mapfre and the shore management, and the fact that they had 3 people on standby and indeed were able to rent a boat and get all of this in place is just really impressive, and shows that a really high-level team like this is always planning for every possible scenario that could happen out at sea. Well, the things that are really tricky is, don't forget, they're down at 55 degrees, 58 degrees, 55, 58 seconds. So it's really cold. If there's one thing that adhesives don't like, it's salt, it's wet, and it's cold, and they had buckets of all of that. So really complicated repair, but let's sort of have a look at the video that we just saw, and I can sort of talk you through parts of it. This was the key moment when they were rounding Cape Horn almost, just a few miles to go, and then bang! You know, we heard the scream in the last time that we showed this video, and just such intense frustration on the part of the sailors to have all of it go up in smoke. Nettie climbing the rig there and was able to amazingly secure the top part of that mainsail. There in a quiet bay, right next to another boat, they gained some extra territory to sort of work on the sail. They were able to spread it out. Still not a proper sail loft, but there they are, taking an angle grinder to rough up the sail, prepare it for the glue, and then they can sort of get onto the rest of it. So what they're doing here is they're laying down strips of new 3DI fabric from material. Every boat has a sail repair kit on board, and I'm sure that they went to the last scraps of every piece of material they had on board. Here they are taping around the edges just to secure that, and then a structural repair. So here, incredibly hand stitching across that break, trying to get some Dyneema in place. Meanwhile, in parallel, it's still white, but it's not the same glue. So that's epoxy on the back of a piece of mast track being handed up into the rigging and then sort of clamped back down. Remember, this was the original position, the original problem that threw them. Finally, even in the middle of the night, after a few hours of working on the boat, they were able to leave their support boat and circle back around until they could get a clean crossing of Cape Horn. So they had to go back to the original position, and they returned to that 14 hours and 38 minutes after suspending racing. Really impressive effort.
Well, you mentioned they come back to their original position. I think it's important at this point just to point out, rules-wise, they are allowed to suspend racing. They are allowed to get some assistance while they do that, but they do have to come back to that original point to rejoin the race. They're not allowed to bring on any new provisions or change crew under normal circumstances. So they're able to get their boat underway. They're back in the race, but do they have half a chance? I mean, we were talking to Antonio earlier. He was a little bit ambiguous as to what they could achieve. What's the reality of it?
Well, you say that he was ambiguous. I think, having consulted the routing computer, you know, the oracle that all offshore navigators use in terms of overlaying the boat's potential speed with the forecast coming up, I think he was overly optimistic, frankly. Let's have a look at what this could look like. Well, you can see that they're a long way behind. The rest of the boats are already up by the Falklands, and so we've got a tight reach. As the boats head north, the layers are going to come off, the smiles are going to come in back onto the faces of the boats at the front of the race, particularly because they've got this sort of jibe and lighter conditions, and that is really the key moment, because that zone there in the middle is what is going to be the barrier to Mapfre. If you can imagine Mapfre sitting in there, we'll put them in red, they are going to be blocked. So as the rest of the boats are going to be heading their way up towards the coast, it's going to be Mapfre here that's going to be blocked by that barrier. As we imagine the boats going forward, we here in Race Control, we're using the boats at 90% of their potential because they're tired and they're cold and they've been working hard. So we expect an ETA around 0900 on the 4th of April, which would be 5 days and 7 hours of racing from more or less from now. However, if we imagine that Mapfre are able to go the same speed of 90% of their potential, that would give them an 8-day and 19-hour leg to Ushuaia. Just because they're going to get blocked off by that expanding anticyclone. However, there are so many questions as to what their potential speed is going to be. You know, if we dial back their speed to 80% of their theoretical potential, well, that could be a 9.5-day leg. And we don't even know if that's realistic. They're sailing at less than 60% of their overall potential right now because they don't have the mainsail up. They need to wait for a few more hours for their glue to cure before they even try it. And then once it's up, is the mainsail going to stay in one piece? Is the mast track going to stay attached to the sail? Is the mast track going to stay attached to the mast? Wow, there's so many questions.
Oh, so many questions. Like you say, we don't know about the quality of the repair that they've been able to do under, I mean, impressive circumstances. Yeah. I mean, it really is quite impressive they've been able to get themselves back underway. We don't know what the breeze is going to do as well, but let's take a look at the points here, and let's see, can Dongfeng Race Team capitalise? What does happen if we see the boats finishing in this order?
Well, so this is projected positions of the current order out on the boat, just out on the water, just to be very clear. There's still a lot of racing to come, and we'll see what happens. However, this is just a thought exercise. If they finish in the current positions that they are, Dongfeng would, instead of being 3 or 4 points, 5 points behind Mapfre as they were when they started this leg, they would now be 3 points ahead. Mapfre would slip to second place, raising all of the hard work that they've done in the 7 legs up until now. But the big winner here is going to be not only Dongfeng Race Team, but crucially Team Brunel. They got their bonus point, as you suggested at the top of the show, and then this is also a double points leg. And so any difference that they can create out on the water is amplified by that. So in the last edition of the race, they finished second overall, and they kind of had much like this edition, a challenging early part of the race. They still finished second overall, and so the fact that we've now got Team Brunel in a projected position, potentially getting onto the podium, this is exciting for Team Brunel fans, because this could mark the start of a late charge by Baubeck and his jolly band of men and ladies. We'll try that.
It's going to be interesting the next week, certainly. Can Mapfre close down the distance? Can Dongfeng Race Team capitalise on what they've already had? I did speak to Charles Caudrelier, skipper of the Chinese-French team, to find out how they were feeling, did they have any energy in the bank, and what the current sailing was like.
It's like 30 knots, reaching at 82 in angle, which means we go fast in the wave, so it's not comfortable. And of course, you pass Cape Horn, you think it looks like you have finished, but it's still a long way to Itajaí, and it's a very tough condition. But in a few hours, things will change and will be much better. We will be downwind and going fast north. So means going fast in the warmer conditions. That's what we are all waiting for.
And I'm assuming some welcome rest as well.
Rest, I'm not sure, but I think it will be tough until the end. Of course, we will have better sleep, less standby. We will need less to be in standby after the watch, because the condition will be lighter, and so yes, we will probably rest a bit.
Mapfre, overall race leaders, suspending racing. This is a chance for you to get those points back.
We have no information about what happened to Mapfre. We just know that he stopped for something. Did they stop to stay at the anchor? Did he suspend race? I don't know. But yeah, we have seen that he has not moving since a long time, and it's for us, it's a big gain. So it's an opportunity, because he's far away behind the fleet. But the leg is far from finished. There is a lot of light spot, so everything is possible. Of course, this is not. We may have a problem. This is not the way we want to beat it, but it's part of the race. I mean, last time we lost our chance to win the race because we broke the mast during this leg. This is part of this difficult leg, is to manage to pace Cape Horn with the boat in good shape. And sometimes we have stopped to push to keep the boat, and we have lost a few miles, but we pace Cape Horn with the boat 100%, which is very important, because lots of things may happen in the future of the leg.
Charles Caudrelier, skipper of Dongfeng Race Team. Now, important to point out, the boats do not know as much as you do watching this at home. Charles Caudrelier saying there, they don't really know what's happening to Mapfre. They are left to guess. But as you can hear in his voice, they're certainly very tired. This part of Leg 7 has really taken out of all the teams and all the fans as well. It's been quite an unbelievable journey. But to get an objective view of what life is like on board and how the crew are shaping up, we spoke to Martin, the onboard reporter.
It's crazy. I'm really impressed about what they have done, what they achieved during this leg, because the past 4 hours it's really cold. Like you can see, we got some ice in the sail, and with the wind it's like 0 degrees. And every time they do it again, every 4 hours they come on deck, they keep the motivation, they keep the fighting spirit, and a lot of jibe. I guess in average 1 jibe. 2 jibe every day. Yeah, for my side, I just big respect for this guy, because for me it was hard, but compared to this guy, it was just nothing. You can't compare, and it's really crazy.
Dongfeng race team in the hunt for a game-changing result.
As the legend goes, you become a master horner after you've rounded the horn 5 times, so I've now done that.
You know, people do this race for competition and adventure, and the adventure was clear today. It's like to be around the landmark, take a minute to catch your breath, and then back to racing. Be towards the top coming around here is an accomplishment for the team.
The Southern Ocean's not quite over, but no, we're really happy to get around the horn. We've had a nice little drink, toasted our achievements, toasted to Neptune, and toasted, of course, to John Fisher. And now we're going to race hard to Brazil, and yeah, let's try and win this leg.
Okay. One John Fish, that's Neptune.
First time round the horn, it was, I thought it was going to be a bit smoother than it was, but it turned into be quite a nightmare of a couple of hours, but pretty spectacular, pretty amazing feeling.
Damn good to get around this point of land right now. It's a really tough Southern Ocean leg.
Yeah, we were routing at about 75 true wind angle in about 30 knots of breeze, and I was driving at the time, and then there was a big bang, and the rig broke just above the first spreader. Yeah, went with quite a bang. Everything, all the instruments jumped out the bracket, the radar exploded, the camera on the front of the rig exploded, and yeah, and the top of the mast obviously landed in the water with a stump sticking up. Since then, just to make sure we look after the boat, protect the integrity of the hull, we've had to cut everything away, and that's all away safely, and I'm glad to say everyone is safe. Everyone is healthy, no one got injured in the rig coming down, and the boat seems to be good. So now we're just getting everything squared away, and we're going to start motoring towards the Falklands.
I was in my bunk. We keeled over the wrong way pretty violently, and there was a pretty big bang. And immediately in my head, I kind of known what had happened. But we're bombing along in 30 knots, you know, double head reaching next to Dongfeng, and that was 1 second, and then the next second we weren't. And you know, everyone stayed calm, cool, and collected, and we were able to get the thing over the side. That was the diciest part. But now we're about I don't know, 100 miles or something from the Falklands, so we'll motor to there and reassess what's possible at this point.
And, this is my 3rd rig down in 6 races. Lost the rig with SEB in the 01-02 race at Point Neptune, about as far away from land as you can get. That wasn't a very nice experience. And then with Puma in the 11-12 race, dropped the rig on the first leg. We ended up on an island, Tristan D. Kahuna, in the South Atlantic, and now we're going to be in the South Atlantic again in a place called the Falklands. So yeah, don't know what to say. Just unbelievable.
The whole thing is a challenge. Whether you're racing the weather or the elements or the setbacks like this, I think that it just tells the story. This race is about overcoming the difficulties. We can't really overcome this one now, but we can make a plan to go forward and try our hardest to keep in the race.